Hello, everyone. Welcome back in for another week of Palmetto Playbook. Less eventful for the college football teams in the state. Only one of them playing this past weekend. But thankfully, I guess it was not a disappointment as it has been in past weeks.
Nobody in South Carolina lost this week.
Yeah, I saw there was a few memes going around with some Clemson fans. They were down at halftime to the bye week, but they came back and won.
They made it. They made it work.
Yeah.
Dabo got it figured out for the second half of the bye week.
Yep. But starting off we'll start off in Columbia, South Carolina versus Kentucky. Coming into this game, I was joking. This is basically the battle of the worst two teams in the SEC. Kentucky started off strong, marching down the field, getting that first touchdown. Funny thing, not funny, but after that play, running back threw the ball into the crowd, ended up hitting Lenoris Sellers' granddad, which I hopefully fired up Lenoris to go on and win the game.
Well, speaking of Lenoris Sellers, he was even on the rushes and passes this week. Threw 14 passes, 14 rushes, 81 rushing yards, 153 yards. And I saw Shane Beamer was saying he loved how aggressive Sellers was this week running the ball because he wasn't afraid of contact at all.
Yeah, this was, I feel like, the first time this season we've actually seen like quarterback designed runs. The previous, which I mean that's probably a failure on the offensive coordinator's part. But that's one of Lenoris Sellers' strengths is running the ball. The past, I guess, 5 or 4 games coming into this one, it just seemed like he would only run when he had to, pressured out of the pocket. But thankfully, South Carolina decided to actually use one of his strengths in this game, which is always good to see.
They turned things around on the offensive end this week, but also defensive end. They scored 2 touchdowns this week, defense. They got a fumble recovery touchdown after the Kentucky offensive lineman dove on the ball and missed it.
Yeah, it's not a good thing if you're a Kentucky fan giving 14 free points to the worst offense in the SEC. That's not a good way to try to win a game, but South Carolina, defense, they didn't look too good on the first possession. But they bounced back at least in the second quarter and throughout the rest of the game, made it life difficult for Kentucky's backup quarterback. And, yeah.
It's definitely been a rough year for Kentucky. I think they're kind of just waiting for this season to end.
Basketball season right around the 3 weeks away or something like that.
Their basketball preseason practices are starting out, and they're just getting ready for that at this point. We've got some more exciting news across college football elsewhere this week. We had a bunch of major games, major playoff implication games, championship games for conferences. The first one, Penn State, Oregon, number 3 versus number 6, double overtime game. I mean, that game was a thriller. The whole game from start to finish, it was just a battle between 2 of the best teams in college football this year, and I could definitely see this game being a rematch in the Big Ten championship at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't ask much more as a neutral fan. It wasn't like a very competitive game to the very end. I think Oregon had the lead for most of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Because they were up, as we could see here, they were up 17-3 at one point.
Okay. Well, yeah, Penn State did a great job battling back. Had moments to win in the game in overtime, but unfortunately couldn't come out with that. Which, as of, I guess, in recent years, this is like the big question mark for Penn State. Can they win those big games? And so far, we haven't seen it yet.
They've definitely struggled against the opponents in the Big Ten, and especially with big opponents now with Oregon and new teams coming into the conference. I think you're going to see them continue to struggle in big games. And if they can't pull out those big games, because you're just going to have more and more big games every single year with how tough the conference is at this point, that they're going to have to figure it out or they're going to end up losing their spot at the top of the Big Ten.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time Penn State had like a top 10 win. I know that was one of the criticisms for James Franklin and Penn State being, I guess, still ranked as high as they are right now because they haven't proved it against the top opponent. I mean, their team's still really good, but we'll see if they can get that resume builder they need.
Yeah, they're definitely going to need a high quality win over the course of the rest of the season. They can't drop another big game, or else I think they're gonna drop themselves out of contention for the Big Ten championship and could potentially drop themselves out of the playoffs. I mean, we had another great game from Dante Moore. He's put on a Heisman-level campaign for Oregon. They've played great all season. He's got the offense running on all cylinders every week.
Yeah, Dante Moore's definitely been electrifying. So I didn't realize till a couple weeks ago Dante Moore is the same backup quarterback for UCLA that played against, because before he was at Oregon, he was at UCLA. His first, I guess, college game would have been, he was the backup when Coastal went out there to play them. Mm-hmm. He came in as the backup and led UCLA to that win. But he's definitely looked the part, leading Oregon to great success so far this season.
And great quarterback play from Dante Moore in Oregon, and we've seen a lot of lackluster quarterback play from Drew Aller in Penn State. I saw a lot of draft boards preseason showing him as the first overall pick. I don't know if that's just because he's built like Josh Allen or if they were looking at the talent, but I haven't seen it so far this season from him.
No, yeah, he definitely needs to improve on that standpoint. I'm sure he'll still go high in the draft because normally they draft up based on potential sometimes, but yeah, I mean, if you're a Penn State fan, I'm sure you're asking more from him.
Yeah, I think if he gets drafted up high, he's going to get drafted based off body type and the arm talent that he has. And I think if somebody with a good quarterback coach can really turn him around and turn him into a kind of a project, kind of as they did with Josh Allen and what Indiana's trying to do with Anthony Richardson right now. So after that game, Penn State moves from number 3 to number 7 in the rankings, and Oregon moves up from 6 to number 2 in the rankings. And another ranked game that we had this weekend, and moving over to the SEC now, LSU and Ole Miss, which LSU continues under the Brian Kelly era to be unable to win those big games. Somewhat the same problem that James Franklin has, but Brian Kelly hasn't struggled quite as much as James Franklin has in those big games.
Yeah, at least for me, the funny storyline going into this game, days before, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. But days before the game, Lane Kiffin's daughter announced that she was dating, or made it official that she's dating LSU's star defensive player. And so another messy storyline coming into this one. Lane Kiffin saying before the game, bet the over. Just making, I guess, jokes on the whole situation.
Yeah. Well, actually, Whit Weeks during that game actually puked
in
the middle of the
that
game.
Too, yeah.
There was a lot of storylines going on with Whit Weeks, Lane Kiffin's daughter this week going into this game, during the game. After the game, Lane Kiffin poked more fun at Whit Weeks again. It was an interesting storyline around a very serious game, which turned it into kind of a different scope going into it.
I know Ole Miss, because we were watching this game before we headed into the stadium in Columbia. I think Ole Miss got off to a really bad start. They were struggling on offense. I know for most of the first half they only had 3 points, but they were able to bounce back and take the lead in the second half and come out with that win.
Yeah, their offenses for either team, Ole Miss and LSU this week, they just didn't show a whole lot this week. Not a whole lot of scoring, not a whole lot of yards, big plays, chunk plays. It seemed like a very big defensive battle this week, and LSU just couldn't pull it out defensively, and they just got too far behind to start the game. They battled back, but they just couldn't pull it out at the end. And both teams in this week, they just traded spots. So LSU went from 4 to 13. Ole Miss went from 13 to 4.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of parity on the SEC side. Just still a long way to go, but we'll see. Definitely a good spot to be in if you're in 14th or 13th with playoff implications. So, yeah, this one game won't make or break the season necessarily, but it's a good test for the rest of the season.
Yeah, sticking in the SEC, Alabama beat Georgia this week, 24-21. This is a game that everybody looks forward to every year. There's the play of the year. Ty Simpson threw a screen pass to his...
Did he at least get the touchdown on this?
No, he was close. He got down, as you guys can see here, stepped out of bounds right before, and look at that, the big man. He even knew to seek out that pylon.
I mean, that's great coaching right there.
He knew to hold that ball high and tight, and reach for that pylon. Another great game from Ty Simpson. After the first week, which everybody on the Alabama side just fell apart in that first week. After that week, Ty Simpson, he hasn't been elite on most fronts just in terms of talent, arm talent, the athleticism, but he just doesn't make mistakes. He's putting the ball where it needs to be, and just not making mistakes, not turning the ball over. And that's really all you need to do in the SEC, as long as they can lean on their defense and score a decent amount of points, as they have shown they can so far this season. I think they can lean on him to kind of be the cog of that offense and stick to try not to make mistakes and leaning on the defense.
Yeah, you don't need to be flashy as long as you can consistently move the offense down the field. So that's a good job on his part.
Yeah, 276 yards this week, 2 touchdowns, another week with no interceptions. And Georgia this week showed their passing game isn't where it needs to be, especially in the SEC. We talked about there's a lot of parity in the SEC. And at this point, if you lose 2 games, you're probably out of the SEC championship and could potentially be out of playoff spot. With all the teams in the SEC that have playoff hopes, that have a chance of being in the playoffs, I think you need to almost have 1 win, potentially 1 loss, potentially 2 losses to be in that game, but they have to be good quality wins. And a team like Alabama almost needs to win out Georgia after this game. If Alabama wins out, this loss will look a lot less on their resume, but I think that it's just a tough place to play. The SEC's just a gauntlet every year.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned, but as we were first starting, this is a game that fans have been, or the fans that have highlighted this one down. Georgia fans, I guess, were finally hoping they could get over the hurdle that is Alabama, but time and time again, Alabama finds a way to beat Georgia.
Well, Georgia's had a couple of national championship seasons where they still haven't beat Alabama.
Yeah,
we were talking earlier about how this game, to Georgia fans, it seems like it's more important than the national championship at this point. They're more worried about beating Alabama than they are going to the national championship and the SEC championship in recent years. I believe Kirby Smart is 1-7 as a coach.
I think so. That's what I saw.
I believe he's lost 7 games against Alabama and 13 games overall ever. So he has 20 losses, 7 of them coming to Alabama, and I believe his record is 200 and something wins to 13 losses against everybody else. And then he's 1-7 against Alabama. So I know Georgia fans are looking forward to this game because it's a big game each year, but I don't know if they really want it to
I don't
happen.
know why they're looking forward to it at this point. I mean,
Florida State's run, I mean, I don't know if we can say that their run is over, but their dominance is over at terms of the first half of the season. They beat Alabama. They went on an insane run after that, scoring 60-some points a game.
Yeah.
But they had a huge loss this week against an unranked Virginia team, who I will say they have a very high-powered offense, but they were unranked coming into this game. After the game, obviously, they're ranked now, and you saw that high-powered offense all night.
Yeah, this is a crazy game because I thought nothing of it. Florida State, I figured, would just walk up to Charlottesville and walk out with an easy win, given how they've played this season. Because this was also on Friday night, and I was helping with extra point stuff. I come back to the station to edit my stuff. Well, I was getting notifications throughout the night while I was covering my game that Virginia had a lead, Florida State was coming back, battling out. I didn't expect it to be close to the very end, but I started watching the game right after Castellanos had that clutch pass with 30-something seconds left to go to take it into overtime. I was watching the end of the game, and it was just insane. I know one of the craziest moments I think I've ever seen was that field storming.
That was the most insane field storming I've seen, and as an Alabama fan my entire life, I've seen quite a few field stormings in my day. And I thought a couple of years ago at Tennessee when they brought the field goal post down to the river, I thought that was going to be the best one. But that Virginia field storm was insane. I've never seen a field storm that fast.
I don't think there was because they were on the hill. I don't think there was a fence. I think they were just
they were just on the field.
They were just having good faith that these students would do the right thing. But that's insane. Basically the fans were me to TJ.
Yeah. That last play in the end zone, the Virginia player pulled down that interception, and I don't even think his knee touched the ground before the fans, and everybody was rushing the middle of the field.
I just hope that Florida State receiver, I think his name was Squirrel White. I hope he got out safe because it didn't look like it.
He was stuck in a stampede there.
Yeah, when you have thousands of people just rushing you before you're even off the ground, that's insane.
Because he thought he was about to catch a game-winning touchdown pass, and you look up and there's 1,000 people running over you. And then moving on to the NFL, we had, I believe, 10 one-score games now after these games on Monday. 10 one-score games this weekend. It was a great game, great weekend across the NFL. A lot of good games, which you just love to see as a football fan.
Yeah.
Hate to see blowouts across the board. We'll get into one of the blowouts in a minute. We'll hold off on that. I think you guys know which one we're talking about.
Yeah, unfortunately, has Carolina connection.
Yeah, the Colts lost their first game of the year. I think we knew their run was going to come to an end at some point. I mean, Indiana Jones can't carry them the whole season. I would have loved to have seen that go the whole year.
Yeah, I mean, you can't blame him for a receiver dropping the ball at the goal line. But
Yeah. That play was interesting. You hate to see those. It happens.
I don't know how it's still. I mean, granted, I'm not. I can't. I don't think I'm in a position to like judge these NFL talents. I'm as unathletic as it comes, but I don't know how hard it is to hold on to the ball crossing into the end zone.
I know when we played, if you dropped the ball before getting into the end zone, you weren't seeing the field again. And it happens at least once a year across college football, the NFL. Somebody does it, and they get thrown on Jacked and a Fool and all the shows that they have to make fun of professional and college athletes for doing boneheaded things. But dropping the ball before the end zone is just something that can't happen.
Yeah.
Especially in a tight game. I mean, this ended up being a one-score game at the end, and you hate to think that one play would have been the difference in the game. Plus, you got to feel for the guy. I mean, knowing that you could have potentially lost your team the game by doing something dumb and just not being focused at that point in time.
Yeah, I guess the only solace, would be that this is a Week 4 game and not like a playoff game or something like that. Just
no
imagine
implications.
that.
Yeah, you'd hate to end your season on a dropped ball before the end zone. But the Colts played well again. Another great defensive battle from them. They got a few turnovers there, as you guys just saw the fumble. Obviously, Puka Nacua is having a great season again. It seems like we're just going to keep talking about him for his entire career. Coming into the league, nobody was talking about that guy. And then now he's just burst onto the scene, his rookie year. And now they got rid of Cooper Kupp, and I guess they're running with Puka Nacua now for the rest of his career. And I don't think he's going away anytime soon.
Not with the way he's been playing. That's for sure.
And Buffalo and Philadelphia are now the only undefeated teams. Last week we talked about how there were 5 left, and now we're down to 2. And after this performance this week from Philly, I'm going to change my pick. I think Buffalo is going to be the last team standing when it comes to the undefeated season. I think we saw a few more mistakes than we expected from the Eagles this week. And we saw a little bit extra help, as we're seeing there, the punt block from their special teams.
Yeah.
That I don't know if we can see them sustain this and go undefeated for a whole lot longer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what their schedules look like after this. I know Philly had a big lead. Then they started talking smack to Baker Mayfield, woke him up. He stormed back, almost had a chance to win it, I think, but the Eagles squeaked out a win. Bills didn't look too impressive until like the second half. They were. The Saints were sticking around, which the Saints haven't won in a long time.
Yeah, the Saints have been struggling for a few years now.
Yeah, they kept the Saints around until the Bills ran away with it late. But yeah,
you'd like to see that game be put away real early, especially with how tough the Bills have been this season, last season, and just how great that offense and team has been over the last couple of years. You'd like to see them put that game away early. I guess we got to get into the Panthers game this week. Yeah, we talked about the wins and the undefeated seasons. We got to get into the Panthers game this week. Lost 42-13 against the Patriots. It's the same story each week now, it seems like, for the Panthers. Last week, we got a glimmer of hope, and then they just shut the door on that.
They quickly showed this is still the Carolina Panthers of the back.
Yeah, the Panthers aren't going anywhere. They're staying where they are. You saw Bryce Young, I believe, is getting benched again. I think Andy Dalton came in. He threw 6 passes and threw just as many touchdown passes as Bryce Young had in this game. You had a few special teams plays from the Patriots, as you're seeing there, the touchdown that they scored on a punt return, and then they had another punt return that they brought down to, I want to say, close to the 5-yard line, and they punched that one in for a touchdown. When you're struggling as much as the Panthers are offensive and defensively, you've got to be tight on the special teams, and you can't be letting plays like that happen.
Yeah, I know. I think one of the storylines coming into this game, I think you just saw it there. Drake May has a lot of connections to the city of Charlotte. He actually grew up a Panthers fan, even doing the Cam Newton celebration in the end zone because Cam Newton was one of his favorite players growing up, watching him. But yeah, there's still a lot of questions for the Panthers to trying to find answers for.
A bright spot for the Panthers in this game. I know it doesn't mean much given the final score, but they had more yards, first downs. They led time possession, and they didn't have any turnovers this week. I know a punt return touchdown feels like a turnover after that, but that is a silver lining in this game moving forward. And moving forward, do you think we're going to see any changes in the front office or in the coach up in the box?
I mean, I feel like you have to, but I don't know. Given David Tepper's hesitancy to make those moves, I'm not sure.
You think he'll ride it out through the end of the season?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's tough to say, especially with how much the roster has struggled, and they've just struggled to field a winning team for years now. So I don't know how much you can blame it on a specific coach. I mean, I don't think Ron Rivera should have ever left.
No.
I thought he was doing a great job, and then he had one bad year, and they got rid of him.
Well, I mean, when you trade your what was his name? The DJ Moore, their best receiver. Yeah. They got rid of Brian Burns, who I think now leads the NFL in sacks. So let's just trade our best pieces away and hope and
then blame the coach. Yeah. And then get rid of the coach and act like it was his fault. And moving on to some other sports now. I know football's the big talker now or in season, but the WNBA is finishing up their season. We've got the WNBA finals coming up this week, and the Las Vegas Aces and Indiana Fever. They've got a game coming up. They're playing for a spot in the finals, which will be facing off against the Phoenix Mercury, who have already gotten their spot in the finals. This is going to be potentially a legacy game for A'ja Wilson. She just came off of her record-breaking 4th MVP. She dropped 31 points in Game 4. They didn't end up winning that one, so hopefully this Game 5, she can bring it home for the Aces and put on another great performance as she does night in and night out.
Yeah, this has been a good series to watch. Indiana, They've definitely been one of the hottest teams. They're still out with Caitlin Clark. They have some other injury with like Sophie Cunningham. So it's good to see that they're still like doing really well with Aaliyah Boston, the South Carolina grad. One of their guards, Kelsey Mitchell, leading their offense. They've definitely been playing well. They got blown out in Game 2, but they rebounded really quickly and even up the series in Game 4. And all comes down to Game 5, which when you're watching this, you'll know the outcome of the game because we record on Tuesdays. But it could, it could go either way.
Yeah, I think this would be an interesting game 5. I want to say Game 7 because I'm so used to the series in the NBA. But Game 5, winner take all game. I think A'ja Wilson is going to prove why she's the MVP and why she's the best player in the league and potentially in the league history. And this will be a good game. I think the Indiana Fever are going to be great for years to come. You have to think about Caitlin Clark's out, and they're still potentially fighting for a spot in the WNBA finals. So you'd like to think if she was playing in these games in this series that they'd fare a little better than they have.
Yeah, and they're still, like you said, they're still doing really well. But yeah, the Aces are going to need to rely on A'ja Wilson. Like you mentioned before, she had I think 31 points in that Game 4. So it's not like it's not like she's been like bad this series or anything like that. She's still playing really well, but that's just also a testament to the Fever, who are matching the intensity and coming out with at least 2 wins so far this series.
And then with the end of the WNBA playoffs happening, we've got the start of the Major League Baseball playoffs, and the wild card series starts. Well, they start today, so the first games will be over as of you guys watching this, as Alan Marcus was just saying. And we've got the bracket pulled up for you. So we've got the Phillies, the Brewers, the Blue Jays, and the Mariners are the teams that have byes in the first round. And I think the playoffs should be interesting. Baseball's an interesting sport when it comes to playoffs because anybody can win on any given day. I know we say that about every sport, but
yeah,
but it's usually basically up to the pitching changes and who they can put out of the bullpen that can usually decide these games.
Yeah, I know. Just looking at the bracket right there, that historic rivalry between Boston and New York in a wild card setting will be very interesting to watch. I'm sure those crowds are going to be definitely into those games. I was talking to TJ before we even started this podcast that one of the funnier, at least I find it funny, the way that the Guardians even got into the playoffs. Mm-hmm. They secured their spot by winning on a walk-off hit by pitch. They had the bases loaded in the ninth inning, and I don't know who they were playing, but the pitcher hit their batter, securing their spot in the playoffs. That's definitely an odd way to to do that.
And then the Major League Baseball was trying out a robot umpire system this past season. They were experimenting with it in the minor leagues. And so how it works is the umpire is still making the calls on the field, and then if our team is to challenge a call, the robot umpire has the final say. So it goes up to the replay, and then at that point it's up to the technology as opposed to it being up to the umpires at that point. And it's looking like it's going to be implemented to start the next season, so it won't have any implications on this playoff run now. But starting next year, they're going to be implementing this system, which I think will be interesting to watch. It's always interesting when any league implements new rules or any type of new system of anything. So we'll be interested to see how that works out next season.
I think it'll be a welcome addition. I want to say they also use it during the All-Star game. I
believe so.
But how it kind of works is you get 2 challenges that you can use throughout the game. If you win, like if you challenge it and the call is overturned with the robot, you get to keep that challenge and you can still use it throughout the game. But I mean, I think it'll be a great. There's definitely been some iffy calls. Probably, I mean, just like for every game.
Yeah, anytime you've got people refereeing a game, you're going to see some errors made, and I think this will also take away a lot of ejections for coaches.
Well, true, yeah.
who are you going to be mad at if the robot's making the call at the end of the day? You can't really go over and be mad at the robot unless they're running over and breaking it, which would probably come with a hefty fine.
But yeah.
And then moving on to golf, the USA loses the Ryder Cup to Europe once again. 15-13 this year. And they almost came back on the final day of the Ryder Cup. I thought they were going to pull it out in the end, but they just couldn't. Just wasn't enough.
Yeah, I don't follow golf that much, but I was actually watching that as the USA was trying to make that comeback that last day. And obviously, I don't know much about golf, but I was over there getting hype, fist pumping, cheering, all of this stuff. But yeah, the USA they struggled the first 2 days when it was group play. I think. It was what was it they start off with foursomes in the morning, which is where 2 USA players are paired up and they play. I think they take alternating shots. So say I drive, TJ would take the next shot, and then we would rotate. And then I think in the afternoons it was they all 4. It was still group paired up, 2 Europeans paired up with 2 Americans. And then they all 4 would play their ball. I think it was 4 ball, so they would all play their ball, and they would just take the best score between those 2 players, and they played best holes. So if you win hole 1, you have a 1 shot or a 1 hole lead, kind of stuff like that. But it was really cool to watch, at least coming through the end. The USA they struggled very much on those first 2 games. They just had too much of a deficit to come back on those.
Yeah, if they wouldn't have struggled that much on those first couple of days, I think they would have pulled this one out. But it was just too much to come back from at that point in the game or match.
Yeah, I know, because I think from what I heard, I think the USA's strength is when they're playing those individual matches they did on Sunday. But when you struggle as much as they did those first 2 games, you have to play it perfect on Sunday to have a chance, and they almost did, but Europe ended up winning.
Yep, and then coming back here to Coastal Carolina, volleyball opened up conference play this week with a win over Marshall, and our own Jalen Stout broke the all-time record for triple doubles. So a triple double is when you get 10 kills, 10 assists, and 10 digs in a match, and so she broke the record for triple doubles at Coastal Carolina, which is definitely a feat to be mentioned, especially with our volleyball program has been recently. They're definitely looking up, and I've been to a few volleyball games over there, and watching her play is definitely something to watch.
Yeah, I believe she's a junior. I know the team struggled last year. I think they finished because I was looking up their like records and stuff before we started this. I think they went like 13-17 last year, but the year before that was they did really well. They won the Sun Belt, went to the NCAA championship. But I think coming into this season, like Jalen Stout was like tied for like active players with that triple double record.
Yep.
So it was good to see her get that recognition because she's played really well. Her I guess 2.5 seasons right now because she's in her third season now. But hopefully she can keep it up and keep that team rolling. I think they're 9-4 on the season, and like you mentioned, they started conference play with 2 wins over Marshall, so they're 2-0 in the conference.
Yeah, as you were just mentioning, they were great 2 seasons ago, and then last year they struggled. So hopefully they can get back on track and show that last year was a fluke, and show that 2 years ago is really the team that they are and the identity that they have.
Yeah, it'd be definitely interesting to follow them throughout the season.
And then looking into next week, we've got teams that are actually playing this week. Clemson and Coastal Carolina both have games this week, and South Carolina is the one that's off. So we're flipping the script on this past week. Clemson plays against North Carolina at noon. This is a much-needed win for both teams. Clemson, it's a much-needed win if they want a chance at the playoff, if they want a chance at the ACC. For North Carolina, it's a much-needed win because Bill Belichick might be out of job here pretty soon.
Well, I think he has a hefty contract. It'd be crazy to
buy him out right away.
Yeah, get rid of him right away. I'm sure they're investing that money in basketball up there in Chapel Hill. But this is definitely a game that I feel like this is a good game for Clemson. They should have no problems getting past North Carolina.
Well, we've been saying that
all
year.
Yeah, I have been saying that for several weeks. But yeah, if they struggle against North Carolina, the pressure on Dabo Swinney.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's definitely his seat's getting hotter and hotter as the weeks go on.
Yeah.
And after this bye week, I think you expect a team like Clemson with a coach like Dabo Swinney to be able to get his team geared up for this game. And I could see this being the turning point in their season. If they can come out and stomp North Carolina this week, I think they could turn things around for them, and you could see them go on a big run here moving into the second half of the year.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess before this past weekend, I kind of figured the ACC – it'd still be a much of a uphill battle for them to climb back. But you've already seen Florida State lose a game. You saw Syracuse lose to Duke. So, I mean, Clemson needed a lot of chaos to get back into the ACC championship game conversation. But so far, that chaos is happening. We'll just see if Clemson can actually pull out these wins to keep it up because they got to go perfect throughout the season.
Yeah, we saw a lot of chaos in the ACC this week, especially after that Florida State game, which was the most unexpected game because we were talking last week about how we expect them to run the table and be the team to beat in the ACC. But all those losses definitely give a good chance to Clemson moving forward, getting back into that game because they're going to need a lot of losses amongst those top teams. I believe, I could be wrong on this, but I believe Louisville is the only undefeated team in the ACC right now.
Wow. I mean, yeah. But I know, Florida State could very well see themselves with 2 back-to-back losses. I think they're playing Miami this week, and I know there was some uproar about where College Game Day was going this week because Florida State thought they were, or I don't know. I guess they're playing in Tallahassee.
Yeah, it's at
so
Florida
State thought they'd be getting College Game Day with Florida State and Miami, but losing to unranked Virginia sent College Game Day up to the. Is Alabama playing Tuscaloosa?
Yep, yeah, it's at Alabama this week.
So the rematch between Vanderbilt and Alabama.
Which is if you would have told us 5 years ago that College Game Day was excited about an Alabama Vanderbilt matchup, I don't know if we would have believed you. But Florida State Miami is going to be a great game. Florida State's been great all season. Miami's been almost unstoppable up until this point. So it's going to be kind of a clash of titans in the state of Florida, especially with how much the University of Florida struggled. Florida State and Miami have run the state for the past few years now, and I think that'll be basically for the state.
Yeah.
Whichever team can pull this game out. And Florida State fans are mad about College game day. But after Vanderbilt's upset last year and how much that game meant to everyone in the scope of college football, because it kind of proved that college football was going in a different direction. And I think College game day going to Tuscaloosa this week will be great, especially with Vanderbilt's undefeated this season.
Yeah, I mean, Vanderbilt's played really well.
They're 5-0. Diego Pavia, I don't know what he's cooking up over there, but they've got some magic going on up there in Vanderbilt. Yeah. And so as we mentioned, Coastal Carolina's back on this week. They play against Old Dominion, conference opponent. And I've seen Old Dominion been in some college football playoff talks early in the season. With how their offense has been playing, I could see them winning out and getting in there, but at the very least, I believe they're going to be in the Sun Belt Championship game this year.
Yeah, I mean they've looked the part so far. Coastal's will need to rely on that success they had on the road at South Alabama. Before that game, their season was looking very bleak, but they found what they needed on offense, at least for that game. We'll see. Hopefully they keep that up and don't show out like the Panthers did after they found some success. But
yeah, I think this game is going to be up to the offense to outscore Old Dominion's offense. I don't know if you can see another great defensive performance against this Old Dominion offense. I just don't see anybody stopping them this season unless they get into play against some greater competition. I don't see anybody in the Sun Belt stopping that offense. If somebody can outscore them in a game, I believe they can be beat, but I don't know if anybody can stop that offense at Old Dominion.
Yeah, it'd be a good matchup to see.
And then South Carolina, as we said, is off this week, and the Dolphins the Carolina Panthers have a game against the Dolphins this week. That's definitely winnable for Carolina. After we saw the Dolphins Monday night, Tyreek Hill went out with a gruesome leg injury. Hate to see stuff like that happen. But the Dolphins and the Panthers, both 1-3, struggling to start the season. I know we talk about it every week, but the Panthers have a chance to steal one again.
We'll see if we're right this week. This is there's a lot of. I'm surprised at how poorly Miami started this season. I figured they'd be better than a 1-3 record, but yeah, they've been struggling so far. So it could be a game that the Panthers can come out and steal.
I think if we keep saying the Panthers could steal a win, eventually they're going to get one. We're going to see them steal a win. If we keep speaking it into existence, one of these weeks they're going to get one.
Or maybe if we're just negative. Maybe if we speak that negative energy out.
if we give them no chance. If we say the Panthers can't win this week, maybe they'll go ahead and show us they can.
I'll happily be the punching bag. If I have to say they're bad for them to win, I'll do that if I have to.
You hope to see Bryce Young and I guess potentially Andy Dalton if he's going to be starting this week. You never know what's going to happen, especially after last week with both quarterbacks playing. I think this could be an interesting game for Panthers fans. You could see a win. I think this Dolphins team, with how much they're struggling, you hate to beat a dead horse, but I think the Panthers could potentially pull this one out. I think it will be a close game because both teams, with how much both teams have struggled this season so far, I think that you're going to see a close game, maybe not a good one.
Yeah.
But it definitely should be a battle this week.
Let's just hope, if you're a Panthers fan, let's just hope the game is not over by the second quarter. Let's hope that they can at least be competitive for all four quarters and maybe squeak out that win.
Hopefully. If we keep saying it, they're going to do it. And that wraps it up for this week. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share with everybody you know.
Yeah, all the usuals you hear from us.
And we'll see you guys next week.